tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
I honestly don't want to go right into the show because I love this song so bad. Oh yeah, Stacy's mom.
Nas's mom. Nas's mom.
Classic.
Or Alva's mom.
As I hope all of you know, that is Stacy's Mom, one of the greatest songs ever made.
Bowling for Soup, right?
And yes, this is the AfterBuzz
Fountains of Wayne.
recap.
Oh, is that what
Fountains of Wayne.
It is Fountains of Wayne. Get it right, Amanda.
I thought it was Bowling for Soup. I can see it right there too, and I still said it
It's
wrong.
right on the...
You know what? It's cool because we can just play more Stacy's Mom, which is again my in top 5 jams. Yeah. Another theme song, I think, aside from Ferris Bueller's Day Off that we talked about last week. This one is pretty good. Yeah. Thank you, Frank, for suggesting it. This is the Limitless after show. Yeah. Extended intro because this song is so good. But this is episode 8. Guys, please, if you are watching, please hashtag ABTV Limitless with all of your questions, comments. We love to hear from you. Tweet to the panel. Who are you guys? Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Amanda. You can find me at AmandaFTA31, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
And guys, I'm Frank Maiorana. I will be attempting to keep my posture like Amanda tonight. And you can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
Awesome. Well, I am JB Zimmerman, your host. You can find me at JB_Zimmerman. But let's get into the episode, guys. As much as I would love Stacy's Mom to keep playing for the rest of my life. The episode is called When Pirates Pirate Pirates, which obviously we go into later in the episode with that whole pirating of pirates. But to start it off, it was really a Nas Brian episode, which, we've kind of built up to. We started kind of hating Nas, and then we saw more and more of her peeling back the layers of the onion that is Nas, to finally get us to a point where she's actually a good character, one that is on our side, is on Brian's side, and she has a very lovely home. Very well decorated.
Yes, she does.
Great
and
taste.
I love how last week I said that I didn't really think that it was about Brian, and we were saying maybe she is starting to care about Brian, and I said no, I think it's above him, but now I think she's definitely on his side. And by the end, there was one scene where she was behind her desk at the end, and he said something, and you could just see her smile in that way where he's so charming that she can't help it. And I was like, she's hooked. She's in.
Yeah, she's less of a sort of skeleton figure now. She's much more of a real character. We saw her a couple weeks ago concerned about Rebecca's dad and revealing her strategy and getting Rebecca the file and moving her up to a position where she would have that type of access. And we saw last week with her concern for Brian when he was out in the field on his Black Ops mission. And now today, I genuinely felt for her when she got captured and taken away to CIA headquarters unknown or some black site where she was going to be interrogated, and I felt for her. I felt bad for her, and we saw her daughter Alva, which I'm excited to talk about her as the show goes on. But we saw that she has a family and other people that depend on her for strength and for getting their cousin out of trouble in this episode. So, it adds, like you were saying, we're peeling the onion back. We're getting a lot more layers with Nas as the series goes on.
Exactly. And the more I learn about her, the more everything makes sense. She was kind of a fuddy-duddy character that wasn't really one of the fun ones, but it's because she's got a lot of weight on her shoulders. She's the head of the department. A lot of, the responsibilities fall on her, and she has to make sure everybody does their job. She's the boss. Like, she has to be sort of the bad guy every once in a while. Having said that, I think that she really sees a lot of value in Brian and is protecting him. Like, we saw a lot in the last episode, trying to get him back, doing what she could. And now even more so, as he continually proves himself as a valuable asset, she, really takes him under the wing of the department and wants to protect him, wants to make sure that everybody is working together to make sure that, nothing bad happens. They've really come together as a team. I think the whole, FBI, especially in this episode.
Well, yeah, and I liked what you said, too, about not when you're the boss, not everybody's going to like you. But at the end of this episode, when Naz returns, everybody's cheering and happy that she came back. And so I can sympathize with her position. I supervise people during the day. I watch the way that my boss interacts with me and other people at my level. And sometimes you have to tell people things that they don't want to hear. So your boss is not always, the person that's your favorite some days. But ultimately, I think there's a respect there that we saw during this episode that exploded at the end in a happiness when Dick Johnson, very clever name from our writers tonight, Dick Johnson.
Dick Johnson.
As he's leaving the building.
No, exactly, and we talk a lot about the comedy that they bring into the show that just adds another layer, and I think they really threw it on in a hilarious way. Right. Not just with Dick Johnson, because that was the perfect name, but even taking that name a layer deeper and having Brian text all of his contacts that he is a micro penis, was just I literally laughed out loud. That was such a thing that I have never really seen in a procedural show. It's so out of context.
I thought you were going to say something else. Something I haven't ever really seen in real life.
In real life.
Well, not yet, and hopefully never.
Oh my God.
If you have, though, Frank, please.
No,
The Hangover too.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah.
Ken
I
Dom,
guess.
How can you forget?
Totally. Fair enough. I guess I have seen that movie, so perhaps.
But it is true in the show. I feel like as soon as it gets a little too dramatic or a little too procedurally, they bring something and they light it up and they make you laugh, and I love that. Yeah, so I want to be entertained.
This episode, I think in the past, some of the jokes have been a bit too cute or sugary.
Right.
And this episode, like you were saying, I genuinely laughed out loud. It felt funny in a not a campy kind of way, but in a way where you kind of shake your head and you go, oh, Brian, he's making a silly joke again or playing some prank on a guy. But it actually was kind of a funny thing. How many times do you know in your real life where someone leaves their Facebook open and you go on and write on their wall some horrible thing about them, right? You're laughing because you know it happened. So it's something that was very relatable tonight. The thing overall that I love best about this episode was the writing itself. I thought it was a superbly written episode. My second favorite to the Eddie Moore episode from a couple episodes ago. So I really like the way that they incorporated the story with, like you were saying, the funny elements too. But then we saw Mr. Sands at the end too. So Brian makes good use of it.
Well, it's a really subtle style thing that they do. It's not too much at any time, and it's not too little where it gets dry. They keep it at a constant level, and it's credit to the writers that just, that's sort of their flair, and it never goes to an extreme way. We were talking, sometimes they have to be a little bit more theatrical, but I can get behind those points. But even when it's as small as figuring out the code word pomegranate, it's such a random thing, but it in this show it totally fits, and it's they don't need, because of how they've written the whole thing, they don't need to explain that beyond them saying pomegranate 2 times. Right. It's light and it's funny. It's not it doesn't need to be a gigantic punchline for the whole episode or the series, but it's peppering those things in that I think keep a light kind of mood as you're watching it.
Yeah, and just to further your example, I loved the jump cut to the flashback of Nas mouthing the words.
Yeah, pomegranate.
He's like, I can read
It
lips.
was so funny. Yeah, that was a really good moment that I enjoyed.
And I love the character development that's going on with Brian. I think that's both between the actor and the writers. He's become such a character that you love and that you want to see do well, and you really like care about him. I remember just even today in the first scene when he was like, "Wow, this apartment's awesome." Yeah. I was kind of like, oh, I'm so excited to see Brian again, and that's the cool thing about TV too, is it comes into your home. It becomes, like a weekly thing that you do, and you need a character like that you absolutely adore. And I just, in the beginning I was kind of like, okay, Brian, like he's this guy that's a music person and, he's kind of a slacker. But now you see how good of a person he is and all of that, and it's just great.
And just to expand on your point, I think now the show has become free of the movie, and I think you're right. In the first couple episodes, Brian was almost a carbon copy of Eddie Morris' character with a few slight tweaks. Now he's his own person. He's completely different. When I watch him act, or when I watch the character now, I'm not thinking of Eddie Mora or the movie. The show has taken the training wheels off, and now they're totally on their own concept. So I think I totally agree with you in that. Yeah, now when Brian comes on and he tells a funny joke and he gets out of something in a quirky way, it's interesting and it's fun and it's new. Something that I didn't feel at the beginning of this series, but that I do now.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect. I think also the writers and the actors are starting to become more comfortable in this series. I mean, that's just by doing it multiple times every week. They just seem more comfortable, which just makes it way more entertaining.
Absolutely. Plus, I think overall, each cast member, because they've gotten more screen time, they've had the chance to show the nuances of their characters a little bit. We've learned a lot about them. It may have come in little tiny bits and pieces and morsels, but now I feel like we are getting to know them a lot, and I do like pretty much everybody. I mean, even Agent Boyle, who, has always been sort of a supporting character, has shined in certain moments. He's still kind of in the background a bit, but more we see of him, it does kind of build in a meaningful way. Yep. Even like this slight screen time he had this episode with his moments with Rebecca, and making the moment of how much he cares about the department, and his scene with A. Dick Johnson, and how he was kind of playing him. Was very telling about how smart he is, how quick he is, and where his loyalties lie.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we're peeling the onion back with him, too. Because so far, he has felt like a state the facts guy. Here's your facts, and all right, now I'm going to get out of the way. This episode, we got to see his motivations, his ability to deceive his bosses as he was given a mission to go on by Rebecca. And we really haven't seen so far the motivations of Boyle. What makes him tick? What does he love? What does he hate? What is he fighting for? And in this episode, we got a peek into that. So I love what you just said there, and I totally agree and back you up in that we are getting to know these characters on a deeper level, which makes us care about them, which makes us excited to see them every week and to see what's happening in their lives.
And I think they showed glimpses of Boyle last week. I remember last week I said I'm excited that we got to see a little bit more of him, but this week it was obviously above and beyond last week.
Exactly. And Amanda, I do want to agree that what you said is very resonating, is very much so resonating with me, because I didn't realize how happy I am when I see these characters now. There is such a positivity in each of them, and there's such a teamwork that it is exciting, and it makes it so easy to root for them. Whenever they're on screen, I hate everyone that they're go against. Yeah. And I love them so much. I'm literally eating popcorn, being like, let's text micro penis to everybody on that guy's phone.
Yes. And you don't even know who he is that well.
Exactly.
He could actually be a good person in the end. Yeah. And can we also talk about how Rebecca keeps up with Brian pretty well when he's on NZT? Yeah. It just reminds me how smart she is, because you're watching those scenes and he is on NZT, so he's super, super, super smart, but she's able to, she'll be like, he'll say, oh, and then we're going to do, and she'll go, oh, we're going to do this, aren't we? And she's brilliant. It's so funny that you say that, because it was one of the things I said in the first 2 episodes of the show before you came on board. I said, when Brian is on NZT, Rebecca is earning her understanding of scenes and cases without help that Brian needs. And you're right, they are on the same level. So it adds to her the smartness of her
character,
Yeah.
that she can come up with sort of the same things, which
Yeah.
was really interesting. And speaking of them, we had a great tweet that came to us this week on Twitter. This is from K-Pop Kim at KAND
K-pop Kim, yeah.
RIC at Kendrick. She tweeted at us, just watched tonight's ABTV Limitless recap. Love that you're on the Brecca ship too.
Yes.
This is to you.
I saw that.
LOL heart that Frank is also on board. She gives us a big thumbs up on that. So K-Pop Kim or Kendrick, however you like to be addressed, we are big fans of the Brecca ship.
I'm still Team Brecca, even though today they brought in a little bit of a new love interest.
Oh yeah.
If you guys want to get to her.
I mean, which is
I think we should.
I still think it's to be
thing
Team
for all of
Brecca.
us. No, well, I'm jumping ship. I'm jumping ship today to a new ship.
Well, yeah, I mean, that can come down the line. I
Okay.
think that's more long term. No, but no, I meant the Team Brecca.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we necessarily need to be off Team Brecca to
I'm
be
gone.
on
I'm gone.
gone?
Team
I'm
Nas's
alone.
daughter,
To Nas's daughter, Elva.
Elva. So,
Cutie.
not gonna lie.
Here's the
Boys
cutie.
love her.
I mean, what's not to like? She's super cute, got a great personality, looking dreamy-eyed into Brian's big eyes. And when they were close at the end of the episode, I was like standing up off my stool, wanting to see them kiss. I'm like, "You're right there, kiss her!" And then they didn't do it.
Look,
I was
is that
so
what you
disappointed.
wrote? That's what
I
you
wrote
wrote.
as large as I
Huge
can on my
letters.
notes. Kiss her, bro. You're right there. I mean, you could feel the chemistry
Tensions.
happening between them. And I'm like, you could go to work later. Handle this now. Get the kiss in and then come back later if you
That's
have
your
to go.
boss's daughter.
So what?
Which is the
I
best
couldn't care
part
less.
about it.
I couldn't care
I
less.
don't know. I didn't
Well,
like
no,
her as
she
much
also
as you
seems
guys.
like a very nice girl. So that's probably the best part about it. She's very positive
A
as
great
well. We love the
human being.
positivity.
And she carries a gun.
She does. She's take charge.
Yeah.
They're in
just
love,
lovely.
in case
She's
any of you were
lovely.
wondering.
Well,
Well, no,
yes.
and I think it's worth noting that in her own way, Nas gave his Brian her blessing.
that's right. She did.
So boom,
Good.
that's happening.
Yeah, we're dropping the mic on you, Amanda. Get
I
on
didn't
board.
find her to be that interesting of a character, but maybe it's coming.
Well, no,
That's just me.
It would surprise me that they did so much work this episode introducing them. Obviously, the chemistry with them, they had a very clear moment at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
For nothing, if they're not going
No,
to bring it back.
it's gonna happen.
Plus,
It's just a
yeah.
distraction from Brecca, but we'll get back on the right path soon, I'm sure.
No.
Well, hey,
It's
she's
okay.
she's
It's over.
dating someone.
She's busy.
Who we haven't seen in a
She's-
while.
She's busy. No, he's coming back. He's coming back.
Right, and then
We'll
see
they
him
reminded him about us or about him with the whole screw, marry, kill game
I
that
was
they were
just
playing.
about to
Oh,
say
yeah.
that.
And
Crazy.
again, the sort of fun that we love, or that I love on the show, is that they pull those fun games. Like it's
You
just,
laughed
such
at
a
some
random.
point while that was happening. What did you laugh at specifically?
Well, okay, so aside from the screw, marry, kill game
Yeah.
and the fact that there really isn't a denomination of who is Mike and who is Ike, which is awesome. The whole sign thing that Brian's wearing is another tribute to a movie that it's like one of my favorites, Die Hard 3. Bruce Willis does that in public. It's not the exact same scenario, but it's sort of the same thing where you're out in public wearing a sign in like a specifically bad neighborhood so that you would get noticed. But it's those types of cameos, and they don't just do let's do a kidnapping overseas, like blatantly ripping off Taken without acknowledging that
I have a
series as
particular-
well.
I have a
So
particular set of skills.
exactly.
He said it again this week.
They put that line in for a specific reason. It's the awareness of what the show is and what it's trying to do keeps reminding me that it is so smart. It knows exactly what it's trying to do. It's being smart and funny, but also not taking itself too seriously.
And you can feel things coming too with this show. I thought at the beginning of this episode when Nas goes and sits in that meeting and threatens to expose Black Ops, operations in America, I'm thinking, no, there's no way you can disclose that. These types of employees at high level, secret access, they all sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, to not ever talk about those types of events or national security or surveillance or anything like that. So for her to walk into a meeting and go, well, I'll go to the press. And I felt this feeling about last week's episode as well, because Rebecca met with that CIA operative and threatened to expose the location of their assets. I'm thinking there's no way she's going to go out and expose people. And the same thing with Nas in this episode. It was a bluff. A bad bluff, something that didn't ring true for me, but then also maybe led me to believe that something bad was about to happen to Nas, because you don't go walking into a government meeting and say, oh, and if you don't do what I want, I'm going to the press. Yeah. That's the quickest way to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a bold move. I agree with you. That was kind of a less than stellar moment, because I think for the most part they do a lot to kind of raise the bar with everybody at the FBI. You know, they make everybody smart, even though Brian is obviously ahead of the game when he's on NCT. All of the characters aren't that far behind,
right?
You know, and they're normal. So that gives me a lot of reassurance that people in the FBI are really smart, that, you know, they are doing their job and they're protecting people kind of behind the scenes, like, you know, failures are known, successes are not, type of stuff, and that's awesome to see. You know, at the same time, they do need scapegoats of corruption and things, and so I think just to make it easier, they may use the other agencies like the CIA as kind of a punching bag for that kind of thing, to wean the corruption out, so it's not in their department specifically. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting balance that they have to keep by doing that.
It all goes as part of the creative choices of this show as a whole. There was a point, and I wanted you to talk about during the episode where Brian tells Rebecca that he has extra NZT, and he gives her a look, and we cut to commercial. We come back from commercial, and we skip the scene where he's explaining it to her, and he's just on the phone on the radio trying to get somebody to talk to him.
Exactly. I was really upset that they didn't go back to that, and
because that's a big moment.
It
right?
was.
That's a big reveal, though.
True.
That's a big reveal, because he's not supposed to have any extra.
Exactly.
So how did he get the extra? Obviously, they have trust there built up when he gave Rebecca the file about her dad. So why we missed that scene? I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and especially since they made it a point to almost acknowledge that Rebecca saw that his bonsai tree was fake and didn't need to be watered. So, you know, after just talking about how smart she is, you know, she probably would put two and two together that he's pulling something shady. And then when she realizes he had extra NZT, like, you know, I feel like we could have solved that in some meaningful, interesting way.
I feel like we're going to go back to it. It's going to have to, because they wouldn't put it on a commercial break like that. It was a huge
it's a pretty big thing to have extra NZT, and she completely calls him out on it, and he just gives her like, well, it's
unless he was kind of like, you know, do you want to figure out this case or not? Like, let's not worry about this right now. Kind of
right. No, again, I mean, we can chalk it up to, you know, editing, room floor, time type stuff. Yeah. But, you know, it was a great moment. They built up towards it. I was really looking for how he was going to get out of that one. You know, obviously, he can't tell her everything because of the weight of Eddie Mora's invisible hand will come crashing down in an instant.
Right.
But, you know, he can't. What else is he going to say? I got it off the street? Or, you know, the only other option is that he may have pocketed some from the FBI by not taking one for a day or something.
It is a plot hole in this episode. Yeah. And as much as we love this show, we have to point out some things when it's not, when it didn't make sense to us. And I think they missed an opportunity there for a real moment between Brian and Rebecca. And it's something that you just can't ignore. We have to have some resolution to that issue, because he's not supposed to have any extra. So why does he have it? That's a big thing. Right. And I think, like you were saying, I don't think that would escape Rebecca's notice or curiosity to find out what happened there.
Right. Plus, you know, again, she keeps or tries to keep Brian on a pretty short leash. So if he was just trying to BS her and been like, I found it, she would have been like, okay, Brian, like, let's sit down and figure this out, because she, is smarter than that.
Watch, that's the top of the next episode.
Yeah,
It's her
just
being like, okay, great.
Okay,
I'm glad
so
everything
the
worked
NCT.
out. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, actually, that would be a really cool way to do it.
Right.
And they're writing the rest of the season right now. The back 9 order came in just a couple weeks ago, so I bet they're back in production right now. So hopefully they're listening to this show and stealing all our
I hope
ideas.
so. I hope so.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, in a procedural show, it's never over till it's over completely. So hopefully they do go back to it and they touch upon how, because they all the other episodes they make a very big deal about how he only gets one a day. How, and it's there's really no other suppliers. In previous episodes we learned that there was kind of some type of black market supply, and that got cracked down, and that's when bad things started happening. People started getting killed over this stuff. So to keep that whole storyline, I think this has to be resolved.
Agreed. It will.
It will. I
have faith in these writers. I believe in them.
Back to Naz's daughter.
Good idea.
Well,
No
family.
way. We're gonna go back to that.
Good idea. Go
Well,
ahead, JB.
it's an easy segue. Naz's whole family is, very, very attractive, which I wouldn't have guessed. But I'm happy. Very happy. Well, no, I hope that there's like a reunion, because
This is what we're talking about. How attractive Naz's family is.
yeah, this is what we're talking
Okay.
about.
Amanda, just let him do it.
Just-
Okay.
I need
go
a hot
with it.
guy to
Just
come onto
go
the show
with it,
for me.
Amanda.
Well, I get Jake every week, so that's good enough.
You get Jake McDorman. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was it? Bradley Cooper's in the cameos all the time. Like, what else do you want?
I mean, I do love Bradley Cooper, but that was one time. I guess
that was twice, actually.
twice. Yeah.
So
Okay.
far.
Okay.
Well, no, I just meant to segue with the daughter to get to, the whole pirating thing, the double pirating, which was interesting. And I like how they do, it's not just as simple, like, oh, she was abducted and we need to get her back. It was like a little bit deeper. She was abducted, and then they use the radio tool to like find some kid, C Swagler,
At C Swagler.
at C Swagler.
Right, because he's on Twitter.
Exactly, he is. He's building up a following. He's competing with the terrorist groups he's following. Hopefully, he's surpassed them.
The
with
pirate
followers.
groups.
We hope so.
The pirate groups,
Yeah.
exactly. Which are the GAM and the Wangsa, which are obviously competing. They're stealing from each other. So that was kind of an interesting dynamic. I mean, it was, light enough where they didn't need to explain it so thoroughly. It wasn't like overly complex, but at the same time, it was deeper than as simple like she was stolen in the middle of the night by someone, And then we got to have layers where it was, the Malaysian gangs in America that. Were running opium, and there was a way to contact them, and he had a video game obsession, and luckily for Brian, when he was taking a bong rip in his college dorm room,
That was funny.
He was listening to his geeky roommate kind of wax on about the same like ultra rare pinball machine. So it's those kinds of oddly specific moments that I really like. It's so colorful, it accomplishes so much in such a little time frame. Like, the fact that, Brian had been in that dorm room scenario means that he went to college. Obviously, we know where he ended up, so it didn't quite work out, and how they explain that is he was obviously smoking weed the whole time. So, they really... It adds up on a basic character level that is so deep, and it so far, hasn't overlapped in weird ways where it's like, oh, well, that's a weird choice. It does come together very cohesively.
Yeah, I liked what you said about this week's case of the week kind of being much more simple and easy to understand, and a credit to the production team for coming up with a new cool visual way of understanding what was happening with Matura. So when she's on the pirate ship, we had this cool map overlay with all the different competing pirates, and we saw when she got switched from ship to ship, just a little cut-in video of where she was and kind of trapped. I like that we didn't see her, getting beaten or anything crazy like that. We get the point as viewers, and they trust us to understand what's going on. But then we got cool visual elements again from this show that seems to show up every episode. And this one was kind of a map, Pirates of the Caribbean type of feel to it, that made a winding story much more simple to understand for all of us. And you've talked about it in the past, the color, the saturation levels, the visual things. We've seen Brian make elaborate models out of Post-it notes, and there's always something neat that I haven't seen before in each episode. And it is a great credit to the crew and the production team to come up with these creative ways to make cases of the week that are often winding and conspiracy related very understandable to us as an audience.
Exactly.
And different.
Yeah, no, and different. I agree with both of you guys. It's great to see that creative mind. Obviously this is a TV show, not like a $1 million budgeted movie.
Right.
So they do have some things to cut back on, but they do it in a very visual way where it's not like you don't need all the visual effects of like them flying on an airplane and like the boats and hiring all these terrorists to show what you need to convey. They did it with just simple like a map style drawing. Even the planes going back and forth of when they were released accomplished it so much in a very creative way, and it's a tribute to all the creators. Obviously we had Josh on here a few weeks ago. How they can kind of work within the confines of obviously being a director of just an episode, if that's the case, but also, within the strains of being in a procedural show, time, and everything, what they can accomplish with
They're
this.
working with what they have.
Exactly.
I did find it interesting, though, that when Felix called, when they were in the apartment with Naz's apartment, it said Felix calling on the caller ID. I mean, I know it's a secure line. It was still a little bizarre.
Right, but that was in her house. Do you think that Nas wouldn't have a caller ID? Because that was essentially more of like a Skype thing.
It was weird that it was just said Felix. I don't know.
I get where you're coming from.
I thought it should say like
just caller ID block
code
maybe.
or maybe some sort of code name or something.
Pomegranate or something.
Right.
Pomegranate's
Pineapple,
calling.
apple. I don't know, but not Felix the terrorist.
Right.
I mean, it didn't say the terrorist, but
Felix the pirate.
Well, yeah, he's not a terrorist. He just
he's not the
funds
pirate.
terrorists.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
He's
all
just
the same
shady.
to me.
Yeah.
All the
Well,
same
yeah,
to
in the
me.
eyes of some government agencies, it is the same.
But that leads me to my question for you guys. I had a thought as we were watching this episode that we continue to have each episode a separate villain. We get one villain a week, and maybe it's sometimes two different people who are bad guys. I think JB and I had talked about this a few weeks ago. The show misses a central antagonist. I'd love to see one bad guy that we are all fighting against here, that our forces for good, which are Brian and Rebecca and Boyle and everyone else, are fighting against. And I think that would be ultimately where I'd like to see the show to go, whether that's Carl Van Loon from the movies or if it's somebody new. I'd really like to know who it is that's on the other side of this NZT issue, who's trying to eradicate it, because it's still out there. That's still an unresolved plot point. And while we have these various governmental agencies battling over jurisdiction, it kind of feels like that's been done before. So I really think, and I wanted to ask you guys, what do you feel like the show needs a central antagonist to take it to the next level?
Well, I kind of feel like the central, I don't know if it's the central antagonist, but the central issue is the Eddie Mora stuff.
Right.
The figuring out why he's immune, the trying to help Eddie Mora and figure out what his whole scheme is. That's the one underlying plot line that I feel like is going throughout the series.
Right, but we're not getting a lot of that every week. And as much as I wish it was all just like when you and I were here and it was just all Eddie Mora stuff. That was great. That was my favorite episode because we learned so much. Now, again, we talked about logistical challenges of having an Oscar
nominated actor
in your show, and he's not going to be able to show up every week. But
there could be his people.
There could be his people.
Right.
I love seeing Mr. Sands show up.
Yeah, we got a little bit of Sands right there at the end.
Yeah, and Brian actually uses him this time,
right,
which is a reversal from their relationship.
Exactly, and I think that's sort of Brian coming out of his own and showing that he was the right choice by Eddie Mora, and the fact that Eddie Mora did, decide to do what he was presenting, is proof of that it is working, it is a system. It's kind of the first dynamic of that we've seen where they've worked together on something and it's actually been done. Mm-hmm. So, actually, back to your point, Amanda, I would love to see what's holding Eddie Mora back from doing more things. Not that we necessarily have to see him. I would love to because it's Bradley Cooper, but, maybe they can, integrate more of his, again, invisible hand kind of doing certain things like, the movement of Mora. Maybe it's in the news stories that they're talking about it or, what have you. He is a senator, so he can do certain things publicly that many, many people would talk about.
He moved Paulson out this week.
Exactly. Paulson is gone. So, actually, we talk a lot about bigger antagonists. And while they do have them, they do also get rid of them just as fast.
Right.
I mean, Paulson was kind of in and out this episode, and he was pretty high up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if there is going to be someone bigger behind the scenes that they are working for. Why are there so many corrupt people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it's America.
It is America, true.
Oh, come on.
Or it's life, I guess I should say.
What were his emotions? I mean, it was very easy to point the hate finger at A. Dick Johnson this episode.
Jeez.
Is he just a bumbling assistant?
I hope so.
DIC.
It's just kind of a douchebag character.
Right.
That wasn't really interesting, and that's actually a really good actor. He's been in a lot of TV and film.
Exactly.
And he plays the character really well. This is not a critique on the actor. It's more of I really want a sophisticated, scheming antagonist.
No, I do too, but I would love, because I think that if it was so early in the forefront,
Mm-hmm.
It runs a risk of never getting solved and like drawing out the story, which they're very good at not doing with this. But also, that it would be almost like too public to be. He would have I'm imagining like the antithesis of Eddie Mora would have to be someone with his own pawns, sort of like A. Dick Johnson, that might not be as smart to be on like the good side, but he's just doing as he's told, trying to like find out more information or something.
Right.
I would love these pawns to kind of all be adding up. They are very quick to write them off the list and dismiss them.
Right.
But I'd love to kind of get like a Dr. Evil kind of behind the scenes, being like, we lost another one.
I agree with you.
Do you guys think that these episodes could stand alone?
I thought this episode could. I thought last week's probably could not. I thought 2 weeks ago the Eddie Mora episode was the best episode of the series so far. Mm-hmm. So some yes, some no. But though they did connect last week's episode to this week's, which I really liked. It wasn't this clean break as if nothing had happened the week before. They are taking elements from the story from last week and incorporating it into this week's episode. Nas starts this episode with a scene with Brian saying, "What happened with you is unacceptable and I'm going to Washington to fix it." And so it rewards us as viewers for investing our time every week and coming in and understanding who these characters are and learning their names and being interested in their stories. Because otherwise, if everything wraps up neat and tidy every week and we're on to something brand new, you can tune in at any point and just be caught up with it.
Right.
And I don't want that for this show. I want to be rewarded for watching and caring each and every week.
And I feel like that's the landscape of television right now because of binge watching and Netflix and things like that. People
DVRs.
DVR. People want a story that constantly relates and that they can constantly keep up with. Whereas the old 22 episode format was more like, you sit with your family and watch TV.
Right,
and
and just have it on. Exactly.
That is such a great point.
No, very
just a
true,
whole
very
different
true.
mindset.
I mean, it's when we do watch TV now, it is with intention almost, because we know. I mean, you sometimes have it on as well, just kind of in the background, but with these types of shows, it does reward you for paying attention and for looking deeper, to keeping up to date. People talk about it everywhere, so you have to watch. There's an urgency to watch it on time, or close to, because you don't want to. With social media, it's so easy to find spoilers.
Right.
Obviously in the show we talk about a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, I do like that. At the same time, I love how approachable this show is. Even though they're rewarding me for knowing this whole Black Ops scenario that we just saw last episode, it's not so intense where if I was watching it with someone that hadn't seen that last episode, wouldn't know what's going on. They can still follow and still have, almost as much fun viewing it as me, even though, they didn't know how deep that conspiracy was and how interconnected the characters were.
Right.
It's still having so much fun and enjoyable to watch. It's enough on its own merit that it could stand alone, which is I think even more tribute to the writers that it can do both.
And I think network TV is trying to figure that out right now. When people are watching cable television and shows like Breaking Bad, where it's like an independent movie every episode.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to figure out, okay, we still have a format of 22 episodes. We still have advertising the same way that we used to. How do we incorporate what people are loving with our format? And I think the writers on this show are doing a really great job of doing innovative, new things for network television.
Exactly. I mean, the whole landscape of TV is changing as we speak.
Age.
Right.
Yes, the golden age. Exactly. I mean, for better or for worse, it's almost like Josh was saying. There's so much TV. It's like you can only work on so much. There's only so many people to do the work because it's all so good and there's so much content, which is the best problem to have, I think.
Right. And to go off of your point, Amanda, I'm not looking in this show for Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead, where each week is an extension of the past to the nth degree. I love watching those shows for that reason, but I think what JB said is right too, is that there's the right balance, right? There's a balance between trying to build your audience. This is the first season of this show, so they want new people to be able to come and not feel like they have to go back and watch 5 episodes, because it's not on Netflix right now. I guess you could go on the CBS app and watch the previous episodes. But for a new show that's just getting out there and someone casually watches for the week, I think you're right. It's important to have a reward for first-time viewers the same way that there is for us as regular viewers and watchers and fans.
Super fans.
Yeah.
Yes,
Super
exactly.
fans.
Super fans, we are. I completely agree. I cannot wait until next episode because I am a huge fan. So with that, you guys want to go into predictions?
Sure.
do it.
Let's do it. All right.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I love the lights. I love the drop. Let me be the first to predict Brian and Naz's daughter will be boyfriend and girlfriend by the end of the next
Ooh,
episode.
nice.
By the end
Boyfriend
of
and
the
girlfriend,
next,
or just
yes,
out on a date?
in a relationship, Facebook official,
Well, full-blownsies.
full-blown boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Wow.
I don't think it's gonna be a relationship. I think
No,
I think
yes.
they'll,
Sorry.
I don't know if
You
there's- I
can
don't-
have your prediction.
I mean, Brian's good. I don't know if he's that good to do the whole hit it and quit it with Nas's daughter.
He's not going to.
Well, that's
This
what I'm
is
saying.
an
I don't know if
altruistic
it's-
character. He spends his extra NZT on helping out Naz's daughter. Naz's what would a cousin be? Niece. Naz's
Yes,
niece.
niece.
Yeah, Naz's niece getting out of a pirate situation. So he is truly altruistic. So I don't think he's going to be Mr. Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am. He's going to
Right.
invest in Naz's daughter. They wouldn't have spent so much time on it. Maybe I'm just getting excited and I want to see more of her.
So excited.
But-
Both of you.
Well, yeah. Plus, I would love to see something deeper in Brian's life happen for good, other than getting Sour Patch Kids.
That's a great point.
He is in the mailroom. Come on, like he needs some rewarding story elements to happen, some good things that
I would love to see his dad again.
That's true. We haven't seen him in a long time.
I loved him.
Yeah, and he's very good as an actor, and we haven't heard much about his story or his medical condition and how he views what Brian is up to, because Brian couldn't tell him. Remember last time the nurse showed up and said to him, "Oh, you're going to do everything that he's going to be fine as long as he does everything we tell him to do." And it's the same veiled message to Brian. So we haven't had a health update. I think he's okay, that nothing's gone wrong, but I would like to see more of the family dynamic with Brian too.
I agree.
So what's your prediction then? Are you going to say that they're not going to get together?
No, they are.
Okay.
They are. I just don't think they're going to be Facebook official by the end of the next episode. I think they're going to maybe go on a date, maybe kiss, maybe spend the night.
Oh, they're going to kiss all right.
But but not Facebook official.
They were like literally
right
a split second
Come
away.
on, man.
Like,
there's no way he's walking away from that situation. There's no way. When you're that close with a girl and you're feeling it, you go for it. There's no walking away from that at all.
And now that he's got the green light from Nas, I think he's gonna go for it. Why wouldn't he? They made so much of a point about it this episode that it'd almost be weird if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so Boyle. I think we might see more of Boyle as well.
Good. I love Boyle.
No, I love him too.
I think he's awesome.
No, Boyle is awesome, and even that little bit about the whole brownies with that other
that
coworker.
Was super cool, by the way. Yeah.
She said like a half a line, like, "Oh yeah, I made your favorite," and they were able to connect this whole backstory with them, like how. He knew her. She kept on to important files, like giving her a lot of the credit. It was a really effective way that they can build upon these people in such quick ways.
And I love that he came out good. I really thought that he was going to end up messing up.
Right.
Like I knew that the file, it wasn't going to work out for him, but I thought that might have maybe got him in trouble, or something bad would have happened to him, or that he would have come out, Brian and Rebecca would have realized he's not someone that they could trust. And I'm glad that didn't happen.
No, that's a good point.
Because I was watching it, I was like, oh, they're gonna not kill him, but like figuratively speaking,
that just makes that storyline so much more believable the way that he played it. If you were starting to doubt what his intention was, then that's a great credit to Boyle, Boyle's character and the way it was acted, to make you second guess it, because Rebecca gives him the USB drive, so we got to believe he's on her side. But he did a great job of going in and staying confident with his bosses to ultimately, I agree. I kind of second guessed it too.
We don't know him that well. He could be, people want to look out for themselves.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. I mean, I definitely got worried a little bit. I mean, when he was just with A. Dick Johnson, I was like, okay, he's clearly playing him. But when he got pulled into the meeting with Paulson, that was a guy that he had respected, that there was a previous relationship with. He was very high up, and these offers that they were making, the advancements of his career, it's like, whoa, like he could actually take that side. Like, it would be very easy for someone to be swayed by that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, he definitely stuck to his guns and was very moral and for the good of the team.
Again, with morality.
I
said
it's
the first time I was on the show,
show.
I love how they play with morality.
My favorite prop of the week, by the way, the Schoolgirl Reaper pinball machine.
Yes.
That was super cool.
Very cool.
And I could
very
believe,
specific.
Very specific. But I could believe that Ahmad Wan would really want that.
Yeah.
I could see the way that his eyes lit up when Finch mentioned it, and it's just far-fetched enough to work. And it works within the context of this show because it's quirky and funny, but it's becoming more and more real and believable as I watch it go on and on. I think maybe I would have shook my head to that 4 episodes ago, but now I go, that's kind of funny. That's a great idea. You found his weak spot.
Yeah.
So I might have to do a little prop of the week feature on our after show.
Yeah,
here,
no, that's a really good idea.
Something really cool.
I mean, it was a very unique situation, and kind of a light and funny one. It was. I would love to be in the writer's room where they're trying to figure out these kind of quirks and stuff. Like, what should he like? It's this gangster guy that used to be a pirate. Like, a pinball machine collector is such a, like, there's so many nuances in just that aspect that they can really build upon these characters. I can't wait till next episode when it looks like Brian has either Mike or Ike dressed up in drag for
Mike,
a second.
Yeah, it was
So
Mike.
excited.
I think Mike is the tall black guy and Ike is the white guy.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Brian
most
sometimes get it mixed up.
most times, yeah.
Times.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When they were playing Screw, Marry, Kill, it kind of flip flopped because obviously those are neither of their names, so it can kind of float between both of them.
Those poor guys, they have to watch over Finch all the time, and I think Ike said that he got reassigned from the field office in Anchorage.
Yeah, no, that was another like kind of what would be normally like a meaningless character. They did build a backstory.
Yeah.
Like the whole Anchorage thing, falling asleep on a stakeout. Like, you would expect that would be someone like put in that position where it's like, okay, watch this guy, that he doesn't move out of this file room.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a BS assignment.
It reminds me of Glee, when the Heather character, they gave her one line per episode. And she was so funny and so good with each one line that eventually they built out more and more for her character. And I think that may be the strategy that's happening here is you give these guys little bits and see how the audience takes it and who becomes a more fan favorite and then expand on their story. I really like that. We know that he's from Anchorage. I actually just read a story on the Iditarod last week, so it was bringing up these images for me, just a personal experience.
Yeah, nice. Just sharing a little bit of Frank.
It's like, I'm not, cutting my cake with ice. Miss you, Emily. But at the same time, it triggers a place in time and, again, gives us more about their character that we can relate with next time we see them a week from now. We will know more about Ike and his story, which I think, deepens our fandom for the show.
Absolutely. I can't wait till next week. Till then, where can the fans find you guys?
Okay, cool.
You can find me at AmandaAfter31, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Cool. Thanks for listening this week, guys. I am Frank Maiorana at Let's Go Frank M on Twitter. See you next week.
Yeah, and you guys can find me at JB_Zimmerman. Please remember to rate and review the show.
Yes.
#ABTV Limitless. See you next week, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.